Hello, this is the Silver Watchman, and welcome back to the Hopeless series. Now, we're going to be picking up where we left off last time. This is episode number 7, by the way. In a previous episode, we were talking about the 3 primary types of demonic attacks and the 3 categories that they would fall into, which direct, indirect, and then there's marking. But before we continue on that vein, you need to understand what a demon is. But before we can even continue on that vein, you need to understand what a ghost is. Now, what are ghosts? Well, you humans describe them as ghosts, specters, or the spooks. Now, what a ghost is that is not a soul of somebody that got left behind after they died violently or suddenly and they didn't have any. But that's not to say that when somebody dies that they don't leave something behind. They do. They leave 2 things behind. 2, if they have very, very strong willpower and desires. Broken dreams, stuff like that. What they leave behind, number 1, is their bodies. Their physical bodies is what they leave behind. And at that point, the body is just kind of a husk and a hunk of flesh, bones, metals, you name it, just random material. Kind of like when a computer goes bad, What is left behind? Just a hunk of metal and circuits and stuff that allows it to interact with the digital world. Similar thing applies to human bodies. God designed our bodies to just kind of break down after we're gone. But when a person dies, what happens is this. They are automatically in the presence of God, in the heavenly court. Meaning, they are basically in a courtroom with a judge, the judge, the jury, and the jury could be comprised of I don't know, pretty much anything. You could have angels sitting in there, you could have humans. More often now you just have angels there. And then you have you have God. He's the judge. And depending on whether or not you had a relationship with him would determine on how that courtroom session will kind of go. If you had a very close relationship with God and you knew God and you asked for forgiveness before you left Earth, then chances are you're going to be found not guilty because your blood would have you would have been covered by the blood of God, the blood of Jesus. So that's pretty much Then there's the other option. You didn't have a relationship with God, and in which case God will go, I've never known you in your entire time. You have never once reached out to me, and now you have to carry the weight of your own sins. Be gone from me, I never knew you. In other words, because you are unable to defend yourself in this courtroom, where literally they have every little thing that you have ever done wrong just kind of written down for the records. But if you're saved, then every time you did something wrong and you asked for forgiveness, it will just kind of get wiped away. And you have until you leave Earth to kind of ask for forgiveness and come to God. Don't intentionally not come to God. That's not a good idea. That is never a good idea. Now, that's up in the courtroom. Now, what we're going to talk about is what's going on Earth after a person dies. There are three kinds of people, at least in my opinion. There are the strong-willed people, the weak-willed people, and the in-betweeners. Now, about 95% of the population falls in the in-betweeners, meaning they can kind of go either way. They're not really privy to any strong opinions. They just have opinions, and they're just kind of there. Now, those people normally don't really leave too much behind, even if they were to die suddenly and violently. Like, say, I don't know, somebody grabbed the chainsaw and shoved it up their, just shoved it into them, turned it on, and just kind of made a big mess. At most, what they'll leave behind is this kind of like feeling, this emotion of, I don't want to die. Not now, it's too soon. And that leaves behind what I like to call memories. And the more strong-willed you are, the stronger the entity that'll be left behind, which is just kind of, it's like an after-image view. Have you ever stared into a flashlight or into the sun or any bright light? What you kind of get is like an after-image. It kind of sticks with you for a while. Also, if you have really good vision, able to perceive in the dark pretty well for a human, that's going to happen pretty often. And that happens a lot to your dogs and cats, believe it or not. Which is why when you shine a flashlight in their eyes, they're just kind of stumbling around for a while. Because they're, blinded. Same thing for horses. When you're riding horses, you're not allowed to have a flashlight that's stronger than 80 lumens on you, or else the horse is not going to be able to see. If anything, just have a night vision goggles and an infrared flashlight, meaning you could still see in the dark, but it's infrared, so your normal human eyes won't be able to perceive it, but the animal can, and it'll make it easier for the animal to see. Kind of weird, right? Seems like it, but oddly enough, they were designed like that. So that means if you're riding a horse in the middle of the night, just hold on for dear life and hope you don't die. That was a joke. So, continuing on. Now, these different emotions can be an amalgamation of just different things. For some people, they leave behind a lot of, like, this feeling of they want justice and retribution. Other people leave behind this kind of fear, this this frighteningness, they're scared. And that's, mediums and sorcerers. Yeah, so those people kind of pick up on that. People like me that are designed to just kind of quite literally sniff out the energy in the area are just kind of there to ensure that all of what that's left behind just kind of gets cleaned out. That's part of an exorcist's job. That's part of a job of any man of God. But most men and women of God cannot feel it at all. Which means it's very easy even for the weakest of the demon to hide from you. If you can hide from me, chances are it's probably strong enough to, I don't know, probably one-shot you. Probably. Depending on how weak-willed you are. But continuing on. Now, when a person dies, more often than not, a person will have these kind of feelings of, they feel like they could have done more. They could have done more with their life. There's so much for them left to do. And that leaves behind this after image, the specter or ghost as you would call it. And only depending on how strong the person's will is, will actually determine how sentient this after image is. If it's not sentient at all, like it's just kind of there and it's just repeating, actions and over and over and over and over again, kind of like a GIF, a GIF, a GIF. Those things, they kind of loop and loop and loop and loop. The same thing applies. So they'll loop and loop and loop and loop. And that's pretty much all you see. This kind of looping. But if the person had very strong like willpower and desires were strong, and people like that only make about maybe 4 to 5% of the population. So the other 4 to 5% is the extremely weak-willed people that if you were to, kill them, they'd pretty much not leave anything behind. Which is why, you don't see ghosts all over the place. You just only see it in places where intense suffering happened. And pretty much anything intense, because there's a lot of energy there. Now, humans, we're kind of, we leave behind a lot more than we know. That's why, when you're using any kind of clothing that's from anybody else, you gotta be careful about that. Because if that person was aggressive, you gotta make sure that you're not too it's weird. It's weird how we're designed, but we are more easily influenced and influence than we understand. I'm gonna give you an example of this. Now, normally I keep my emotions in check. And there's a very, very good reason for that. Because if I don't, for some reason the design and what kind of went into me is that the more strongly I feel an emotion, the more everybody around me is going to feel that exact same emotion. And this is what is known as the flood effect. Meaning, somebody with really strong willpower, the stronger they feel something, the stronger the other people around them are going to feel that same emotion. The stronger the willpower, the bigger the radius. So, take for example a radius of maybe 20 meters or more. Depending on, restrictions such as materials, emotional output, and mental distress. So yeah, that's the thing. That's the thing. But yeah, you always got to be wary of how much effect you have, because you don't really know how strong your willpower is until you notice that your emotions start leaking into other people, and then they feel the exact same thing. Which, I mean, yeah, that's pretty cool, but at the same time, that puts an incredible burden on you. But less about that and more about the ghosts. Or after images, as they should probably be called. So, as you leave behind something after you die, other people that go to that particular, and it's all based on what you were attached to the most in your time on Earth. Meaning, if you're attached to a particular area, chances are your after image is probably going to be around that area, regardless of where your body is. If you are really attached to your own body, then your after image is pretty much going to be around wherever your body is. Or if you're moved around too much, whatever remnant after image is left in your body after you're gone, you know, it's going to get disturbed, and it's going to want to protect the body, since your biggest concern in life was staying alive. You know, your body, keeping your body alive or young or supple. Yeah. So, as you continue moving forward, you're going to notice there are different kinds of people. You got the mediums. And mediums are people that have honed that ability to sense supernatural energy. Now, God references mediums, but not in very good light. That is not something that should be cultivated. That is something that, if God has blessed you to sense areas, it's not so you can go and talk to the dead. No, that's how you get possessed. The best term that I've got for this is I'm trying to find a nice word. Really, really trying. I'm gonna have to repeat what God says. All humans are sheep. You're a sheep. Bah. Okay then, so so yeah, these after images, the stronger the person's willpower, the more sentient it is. That's why places, take for example Alcatraz. A lot of people were there for a very long time, and there was a lot of agony there. So a lot of the after images after the people died are there. But along with this agony, these after images have this kind of smell to them. It's like it's hard to describe other than it smells spicy and sweet. But it typically smells like whatever the person enjoys the smell of the most. And that's pretty much it. Yeah, so this is, thank you for, I'm running out of time. But, yeah, thank you for sitting through this video. Glory be to God and blessings be upon you. I understand that I was kind of mentally all over the place, but thank you, nonetheless. Thank you for following my series. Thank you for subscribing. So, glory be to God and blessings be upon you. Thank you. This is truly an honor. And this is the Silver Watchman, signing out.